For simplicity today, I will just use feet and inches, but metric equivalents are listed in the rulebook as well and used in Canada. One very important thing to keep in mind when looking at a course and trying to figure out which way to go is that the obstacle number is always placed to the right of the obstacle. There is an exception for the jug, the remove pole, spear ring, and replace pole, where the number can be right in front of the obstacle. And you always approach the obstacle from the numbered side. As we look at each obstacle, we will also be considering the final approach to the obstacle. The following discussion of the obstacles mainly refers to what is required in the ease of handling trial, which is the obstacle trial that is judged the same as dressage, with symmetry, tempo, precision, and finesse all affecting your score. In the speed trial, it is simply the fastest time after penalty seconds are added, but you get fast and penalty-free by being accurate in your ease of handling trial. Obstacle-wise, the differences are that in the speed trial does not use the jug and only does one circle in the pen. A specific gait is not a requirement in speed in North America unless a show committee limits speed on a specific obstacle for safety reasons. Another important thing to keep in mind when you're practicing is that all obstacles are handled with the same hand. Whether you ride one or two-handed, changing your obstacle working hand will get you disqualified. There are a few ways to get disqualified, but that's a subject for another webinar. As mentioned in the previous webinar, ease of handling is scored like dressage, with each obstacle scored out of 0 to 10. In addition, there are collective marks for general impression throughout the test. And as 5 is sufficient, when the rulebook refers to receiving a negative score, that means 4.5 or lower. Now, without further ado, let's have a look at the obstacles in alphabetical order. The bank can be either an up bank or a down bank, or both. It should be made of a natural substance and be between 1 or 2 feet above ground level. It should be level at the top and at least 6.5 feet long in the direction of travel. There may be ramps leading to or away from the plateaus. The bank is to be crossed in the designated gate without hesitation or deviation, as if it wasn't even there. The bell corridor is made from 2 12-foot rails placed 5 feet apart and a minimum of 12 inches off the ground. They are made in such a way that they will fall down if bumped. At the end of the corridor is a bell mounted 6.5 feet off the ground so that it hangs in the center of the corridor. All levels can be required to do this obstacle, but at the advanced and master level, it's only 4 feet wide. The rider approaches in the traveling gate specified for their level, and if a transition is required, does it before entering or at the markers if used. They ride in at the gate specified on the chart for their level and halt within reach of the bell. While square and immobile in the halt, they need to ring the bell loud enough for the judge to hear it, and then rein back out of the obstacle and past the markers if used. The bridge is usually made of wood and needs to be solidly and safely built. The bridge is a minimum of 5 feet wide, 13 feet long, and 8 inches high. It can be arched or sloped, but should not require a big step up as you are looking for consistent tempo. The bridge can have railings, and if used, they are to be easily removable for safety and between 3 and 4 feet high. The bridge is always crossed in the walk in ease of handling, which requires a transition before and after the bridge or at the transition markers if used. It can be used twice in the same course as long as it is from opposite directions, and there's at least one other obstacle in between. The double slalom consists of an odd number of upright posts with a minimum of 5, and 7 is recommended minimum for the advanced and master levels. Each post is approximately 6.5 feet in height and not secured to the ground. The posts are arranged in 2 staggered parallel lines, with a distance of 20 feet between the parallel lines and between the posts on the line. This can vary at lower levels depending on your rules, so make sure that you check them. The rider will weave alternately through the 2 lines of poles, using a left half loop or turn around all the poles of one line, and the right half loop or turn around all the poles of the other line. Exactly between the 2 lines, there will be a bend or lead change, so the horse is prepared for the next turn. Each half loop in this obstacle should be symmetrical and of the same diameter. The drums is 3 drums set in an equilateral triangle pattern. They're 13 feet apart, measured from the center of each drum, except for advanced and master level, where they are 10 feet apart. The barrel that you see as you enter will always be the second barrel that gets worked. The pattern may start to the right or the left, but it is to the right unless the course designer or judge indicate otherwise. If circling to the right, you would circle the first barrel where the number is, with a right-hand full circle, and as you pass exactly between the first and second barrel, the one that you could see as you entered, you would change bend or lead and then do a left loop. It's not a closed circle. When you're between the second and third barrels, you would once again change bend or lead, and then do a complete circle around the third barrel, exiting where you originally entered. The pattern can start with going to the left, always remembering that the second barrel will always be the one you saw in front of you as you entered, and will never be a complete circle. All circles should be symmetrical and of the same diameter. The figure 8 is 2 drums or similar objects placed 10 feet apart, measuring from the center of the drum. The horse performs a circle around the right drum first and does a direction change in the middle or a lead change if they're cantering, and then does the left circle fully before exiting. At the advanced and master's level, they could also be required to do a rein back after they complete their canter circles, also doing the right circle first. The circles should be of consistent size and symmetrical, but the ones that are done in reverse don't have to be the same size as the ones that were done when you were cantering forward. The gate must be at least 4 foot 3 inches high and 6.5 feet wide. It's to be opened to the right or left, depending how it's set in the course, and can be a solid gate or a rope gate. Generally speaking, a rope gate is recommended for speed and a solid gate for ease of handling. It can be either, except at A-rated and championship competitions, where it must be a rope gate for speed and a solid gate for the ease of handling. Different than most other events that have a gate, the rider will approach perpendicular towards the middle of the gate, transitioning to the walk, and they then move laterally into position. At this point, you halt, trying to halt squarely, and show immobility. Pass through the gate and halt squarely again before latching the gate. Do not let go of the gate until you've completed it, or you'll get a lower score. The gate may also be required in both directions, providing there is at least one obstacle in between. Because you will use the same hand for all obstacle work, it means that one time you would go through forward and the other time will be backwards. The halts are required in the same place. The jug, with a handle, sits on top of a small table or similar sturdy item, at least 4 feet high. The rider approaches at the gate that they are traveling in according to their level and halts beside the table. They raise the jug above their head and replace it on the table and continue on in the same gait that they approached in. The obstacle is approached from the numbered side, but the rider can halt in any position around the table. This can be useful to line you up to go to the next obstacle. You should try to halt square and remain immobile while lifting and replacing the jug. In North America, the jump is used at all levels and varies in height depending on the level. It must be at least 10 feet wide and used jump standards with appropriate jump cups for safety. At the children's and introductory level, it can be a pole on the ground with no jump cups. And then the next level is 15-inch high cross rails, and then 22-inch high horizontal rails, and at master level up to 39 inches. So check the most current rule book for your country for your levels and heights. The horse is expected to approach, jump, and leave the obstacle with a consistent gait. The jump can be required in both directions as long as there's at least one other obstacle in between them. The pen is approximately 20 feet in diameter and has an entrance that's 5 to 8 feet wide, and there's a smaller pen inside which is 10 feet across. This leaves a corridor for the horse to travel in that's 5 feet wide. The inner pen may have small animals or other items placed inside. The pen is worked once in each direction at whatever gait is appropriate for the level that you're riding, but in the speed round it's just performed one direction. When changing direction, the horse will execute a semicircle, turn on the haunches, or half pirouette. If cantering, a change of lead is required, and at the other levels, a change of bend. The course designer may indicate on the map which direction the rider needs to go first, otherwise it's up to the rider. The rein-back L is an L-shaped corridor made of parallel rails that are resting on supports at least 12 inches high and can be knocked over. The rails on the outside are approximately 12 feet long and 5 feet apart, and the two rails for the inside of the L would be 7 feet long. Advanced and master level, the sets of rails are 4 feet apart instead of 5. The L can bend either way, and there are two variations. The first is a bell at the end of the corridor, which is 6.5 feet high, hangs in the middle of the corridor, the same as the bell corridor obstacle. The second is 4 upright poles, 2 at the entrance and 2 at the end, the 2 at the far end having 2 upside-down cups on them, like in the rounding posts obstacle. In the first variation with the bell at the end of the corridor, the rider enters at the appropriate gait for their level, rings the bell loud enough for the judge to hear, and then backs out. The horse should be square and immobile while the bell is being rung, and back out with clean diagonal pairs of legs moving, and no dragging of the feet. In the second variation, the rider rides in, halts, picks up a cup with their working hand, and backs out. They halt again between the entrance poles and put the cup on the pole on the same side as the one that they picked it up from, and then continue to back out. Failure of the rider to ring the bell on the first one will result in disqualification. Exiting the corridor on the destination end with all 4 feet is also a disqualification. There's more useful information like this in the rulebook for your country. I've given you enough to get started, but make sure you read the rulebook for more details. Remove pole requires a pole that is 8 to 11.5 feet long and an open top drum to place it in. It's used with replace pole that comes next and sometimes has spear ring or other obstacles in between them. The pole is placed in the drum with the butt end down, so there should be some indication as to which is the pointed end, either smaller or painted. A rider may request permission of the judge before the bell rings to adjust the position of the pole. The rider picks up the pole without stopping or breaking gait, They may have to carry it through other obstacles, and they may have to spear one or more rings with the pointed end. Replace pole also uses the same pole, 8 to 11.5 feet long, and an open-topped drum to put it in. This may be the same drum that it came out of, or a different drum. If it's the same drum, there must either be another obstacle in between, or a specific route that they have to take to get back to the drum. Remove pole, spear ring if it's used, and replace pole are numbered as one obstacle. If other obstacles are in between any of them, then the next obstacle gets a new number and is judged separately. The pole must be replaced with no change of gait or tempo by putting the butt end into the drum. There are different requirements for different levels if the pole bounces out, so check your rule book. Rounding posts is 2 parallel lines of 3 posts each, and they create a corridor that's 5 feet wide. The posts in each line are between 8 and 10 feet apart from each other and are aligned with each other. A cup is placed upside down on each end of the posts at the far end of the corridor. The rider enters the corridor at the appropriate gait for their level, halts, picks up one of the cups with their working hand, backs up, halts again at the entrance, and places the cup on one of the posts on the same side as the one they picked it up from. And then they continue to rein back until all 4 feet have cleared the obstacle or entrance markers. At novice levels, this is a straight rein back, but at intermediate and above, it's a slalom around the middle pole on the same side they picked the cup up from. The horse should be square and show immobility in the halts. The side pass rail obstacle consists of 1 to 3 poles, about 12 feet long, with a diameter of not more than 4 inches, and raised 2 to 4 inches above the ground. The poles may be arranged in the following configurations, and it will vary according to level. The first is a single rail. Second is 2 rails in a line separated by at least 10 feet. The third is 2 parallel rails separated by at least 10 feet. And fourth is 2 rails in an L configuration. And fifth is 3 rails in a zigzag configuration with the rails set at 90-degree angles. The horse's legs must cross in a lateral movement over the rail, keeping the rail between the horse's front and hind legs throughout. The course map may indicate which direction, right or left, that the horse and rider must pass over the rail. For the 2 rails in a line and the parallel configuration, the rails must be ridden in different directions. For an L configuration, the horse is positioned with its head to the inside of the L. In North America, this obstacle is not used for children's and introductory riders. Novice A and B can be asked to do the single, the 2 in the line, or the parallel rails. Intermediate A and B and advanced can be asked to do the same 3, as well as the L-shaped configuration, and master level riders can be asked to perform any of the configurations. But always check your rule book. The single slalom is an odd number of posts or similarly shaped obstacles, with a minimum of 5 and 7 being recommended for advanced to masters. They are set in a straight line and not secured to the ground. The posts are approximately 6.5 feet high and are set with a distance of 20 to 23 feet between each post, depending on your country and the level. The rider weaves through the line with a change of bend or lead change centered between the posts. It should be an efficient line with symmetry and precision. The spear ring obstacle uses the pole from remove pole and 1 or more rings at varying heights that are 6 inches in diameter. You must maintain gait while spearing the ring with the pole. You do not have to get the ring, but must make an attempt. Maintaining a good consistent line and missing the ring will score higher than trying to get the ring and breaking gait. The horse should be looking towards the ring, and at canter the leading leg would be closest to the ring. Switch cup requires 2 poles that are approximately 6.5 feet high and set 4 feet apart, with a cup placed upside down on top of one of the poles. The rider comes to a halt, picks up the cup, moves it to the other pole, and then continues forward in the gait their level requires. For the water obstacle, the ditch should be a minimum of 5 feet in the direction of travel and a minimum of 8 feet wide. It may be flat to a depth of up to 4 inches or gently sloping to a maximum depth of 2 feet with safe footing. Course markers must be used to mark the entrance and exit. The obstacle may be framed with logs, so horses have to step over and into or out of the water. This obstacle is performed at the walk. The horse should maintain an even tempo and direct line without hesitation. Wow, that's all 19 required obstacles. And other than the switch cup, these are used everywhere in the world.